Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are diving into the wild world of AI regulation.
Oh, yeah.
And we've got two big players in the game with very different approaches.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating how the US and EU are tackling this, with the EU going all in on its AI Act this August.
Yeah, so the AI Act, that's all about ethical AI, right?
Exactly. It's like they're saying, all right, AI, we see your potential,
Yeah,
but let's make sure we're being responsible about it.
right, exactly. So can you break down this AI Act for our listeners? What are the key things to know about it?
Sure. So the core of the AI Act is this risk-based system
Oh, okay.
where they categorize AI systems by their potential risk.
Makes sense.
So at the top, you have the unacceptable risk AI. These are the applications that are just banned outright.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, things like social scoring systems, which the EU sees as a major threat to fundamental rights.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what about the other categories? What falls under those?
Right. So then you have high-risk AI, which includes things like AI used in banking for credit scoring or in healthcare for diagnoses.
Right.
These systems face strict requirements like rigorous testing and transparent documentation to make sure they're safe and reliable. Then there's limited risk AI like chatbots, which mainly need to be transparent so users know they're interacting with a machine. And lastly, we have minimal risk AI, which covers things like AI in video games.
Okay, so basically a sliding scale of risk and regulation.
Exactly.
Got it. Now, on the other side of the Atlantic, we have the U.S., and they seem to be going in a totally different direction by revoking Biden's AI safety order. So remind me, what was that order all about?
Well, Biden's order was all about making AI developers prove their AI was safe.
Right.
Before they released it into the wild, they had to share their safety test results with the government, which included things like bias detection tests, to prevent those algorithms from discriminating unfairly.
Yeah. Okay. So why did Trump decide to scrap it? What was the reasoning there?
Well, his administration argued that all that oversight was actually holding back American companies, especially in the global AI race against China. They felt that reducing the regulations would lead to faster development and help them maintain a competitive edge.
So basically a move fast and break things approach.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, so let's say you're a tech company developing cutting-edge AI. What does this all mean for you, practically speaking?
Well, you're facing two very different sets of rules.
Right.
In the EU, you have to navigate the AI Act, which might slow you down a bit, but aims for greater safety and ethical compliance. And in the US, you have more freedom to innovate quickly, which is appealing, but also, raises some concerns about potential risks.
Yeah, it's like a trade-off between speed and safety.
Exactly.
So companies need to be super strategic about how they approach these different landscapes.
Oh, absolutely.
It sounds like a real headache trying to figure out how to comply with both.
Yeah, it definitely adds a layer of complexity.
And this is where things start to get really interesting, right?
Oh, yeah, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Because this isn't just about companies having to jump through hoops. This transatlantic divide raises some big questions about the future of AI governance globally.
Exactly. Will these contrasting approaches eventually converge?
Yeah.
Or are we heading toward a fragmented AI landscape?
Those are some heavy questions, and we'll dive into those and more in part 2 of our deep dive.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Before we really get into all the implications of these different regulations, it's worth thinking about the underlying tension here.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you've got the EU prioritizing human rights and careful AI development.
Right?
And then you've got the U.S. focused on innovation and staying ahead of the game.
Yeah, exactly. And that creates a tough situation for companies operating in both markets.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They're trying to hit two totally different targets at the same time.
Imagine you're a healthcare startup developing an AI diagnostic tool.
Okay.
In the EU, you got to meet the AI Act's standards, which could mean lots of testing and strict data privacy protocols. But in the US, you might be able to launch much faster with less scrutiny.
So it's almost like choosing between two paths.
Yeah.
With different timelines and different priorities. But is it really that simple? Can companies just choose one market over the other?
It's not that straightforward. Some companies might try to develop different versions of their AI, tailored to each market, but that gets expensive and complicated. Others might try to find a middle ground, build systems that can meet the toughest requirements of both.
Right, that makes sense. But could this regulatory divide actually lead to some good outcomes? I mean, could it push companies to build more robust ethical AI that works globally?
It's possible sometimes constraints can actually drive innovation.
Yeah.
This pressure to comply with both sets of rules might accelerate the development of AI that's both ethical and advanced.
Okay, so maybe it's not about choosing sides.
Right.
but finding a way to combine the best of both approaches.
Exactly. Now, beyond the business side of things, this divergence also raises some big ethical and societal questions.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like whose values are going to shape the future of AI?
Right. Will it be the EU's focus on human rights and ethical guardrails, or the US focus on innovation and economic growth?
Those are tough questions with no easy answers. And it's not just a theoretical debate either. These different approaches have real consequences for how AI is used in our societies.
Absolutely. If we look at the EU's approach, it's clear they're putting human values front and center. They
Yeah.
want to make sure AI benefits people, respects their rights, and doesn't make existing inequalities worse.
Right. But the U.S., by focusing on speed and deregulation, risks letting AI develop in ways that could have unintended negative consequences.
That's the worry some critics have. Without proper oversight, we could see AI being used in ways that harm people or society as a whole. Think about algorithms that perpetuate biased facial recognition tech used for mass surveillance or the spread of misinformation.
It's scary to think about.
It is, and this transatlantic divide also reflects a larger geopolitical competition, with China trying to become the leader in AI.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It feels like we're heading toward a world with different AI ecosystems operating under different rules.
It could happen. Imagine AI products developed in the US that aren't compatible with EU standards and vice versa.
Right.
It could create trade barriers, stifle collaboration, and potentially even slow down AI progress.
So this isn't just about regulating a new technology.
No.
It's about shaping the future of our societies, our economies, our world.
Exactly. And it underscores the importance of finding ways to bridge this gap.
Yeah.
We need more dialogue, collaboration, and some level of agreement on how to govern AI.
Otherwise, we risk ending up with a fractured technological landscape
Right.
where AI can't reach its full potential.
Right.
It's a daunting task, but the stakes are incredibly high. Welcome back to the deep dive. After all that, it's kind of overwhelming to think about all the different ways this could play out.
It is complex, but I think that's why it's so important to talk about it.
Yeah.
We need to really grapple with these challenges, and I do believe there are ways forward, ways that can lead to a good outcome for AI.
I'm listening. What are some of those ways we can bridge this gap between the EU and the US?
Well, remember, the EU and the US, they aren't totally at odds here.
Right.
They both want to see AI used for good, but they just have different ways of getting there.
So it's not about picking a winner.
Right.
It's about finding a way to bring those different perspectives together. How do we even start doing that?
Open dialogue and collaboration are key. I
Uh.
think, the EU and the US, they need to sit down and really talk, share their concerns, learn from each other. They might find that their approaches are actually more compatible than they thought.
Yeah, I bet those conversations need to include more than just government folks.
Oh, absolutely. It's crucial to get diverse voices in the mix. Businesses, researchers, ethicists, even everyday people. Everyone has a stake in the future of AI, so everyone should have a say.
So it's a bottom-up and a top-down approach.
Exactly. What about some concrete steps? Like what could actually be done to move towards a more unified way of governing AI? One idea is developing international standards for AI. Think about a set of guidelines that everyone agrees on, guidelines that address things like bias, transparency, accountability.
That sounds like a huge task.
It is, but it's not impossible. I mean, we already have international standards for other technologies, and these AI standards, they could create a level playing field, make sure everyone's playing by the same rules and ultimately build trust in AI.
Yeah, that would be a big step forward.
Yeah.
But even with those standards, it seems like education is going to be super important to make sure AI is used responsibly.
Oh, absolutely. We need to teach people how AI works, what it can do, the good, the bad, the potential risks, how to think critically about its impact on our lives.
So it's about empowering people to be informed citizens in the age of AI.
Exactly. And it's not just about avoiding the bad stuff, it's about actively shaping AI to make it a force for good.
That's a great point. This whole conversation has been about finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
Innovation and ethics, progress and responsibility.
Yeah. It's a delicate balance for sure, but it's one we have to find if we want to unlock AI's potential without, sacrificing our values and building a future we can all be proud of.
It's a lot to think about, but I feel like we've at least started to untangle some of the threads of this incredibly important topic. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the complex world of AI regulation.
Yeah, then my pleasure.
And to all our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring these questions and be a part of shaping the future of AI. And don't forget to subscribe to Le Podcast de Philippe on YouTube. We'll see you next time.